Hi guys, happy witchy Wednesday. Anyways, yeah, very tired today, don't know why. No energy. So, we are going to continue with the seasonal rites and how they're practiced within traditional, well, not traditional, well, kind of traditional craft, but the clan of Cain. So, it's very interesting. Where did I leave off? Oh, alright, so we left off with the Midsummer. So, the Midsummer Rite was held on Midsummer's Eve, or St. John's Eve, June 23rd, and marked the sacrifice of the god. Although in older craft traditions, this was at Lammas. So, the goddess rejected the goal, or the god, and accepted his word or fate by taking from an apple, the fruit of the underworld, from her hand. Now, everyone gathered at the oak tree, and the MC, the master of the ceremony, told them to listen to the sounds of the wood around them as a form of meditation or purification, therefore the rite proper. So, 2 or 3 of the women went to a nearby stream representing the river Styx. That is a very common theme. What is so popular with the river Styx? So, the rest of the company feted Robin, known as by the phallic name of Cock Robin, as in the famous nursery rhyme. So, before he took his last journey, there were toasts and dances, including that of the lame god executed, with a shuffling, limping step. Robin was then dragged, kicking and screaming, to the stream, the symbolic gateway to the underworld. Okay, so the river Styx would be the symbolic gateway to the underworld. Gotcha. Alright, so where the women stood wailing and invoking the dark goddess as the hag or old queen. One of the women played this role dressed in black and veiled. She welcomed Robin with a kiss, and he was led away with an honor guard of merry men. So he was then symbolically sacrificed by being castrated, blinded, and finally dismembered, in a copy of the Celtic threefold death. Whoa. Well, this is only reenactment, so thank the gods. So his severed limbs were then offered to the goddess at her four quarters by her priestesses. Ooh. The priestesses then subjected Robin's merry men to a series of tests and ordeals by the elements and a mock death before they were returned to the world of the living. Now, the final part of the rite was the triumphant return of Arthur from the underworld. Alright, I'm kind of getting where, the two different, the dark god and the light god. So the just different aspects. So the maiden, who was wearing a red gown to symbolize the spilt blood of the sacrifice god, greeted the returning men when they arrived back at the oak. So 3 women representing the lunar aspects of the goddess then went into the wood and returned with the man playing the part of Arthur. So the new king was then greeted by the assembly. Toasts were made in his honor and libations offered. So finally, cakes. What kind? I want to know what kind of cakes they had. Cakes and wine were passed around, and dancing concluded the proceedings. Now we have Lammastide, which is August 1st. So it was basically a time for mourning the god as he made his journey to the Hollow Hill or the underworld. Now at the oak tree, the MC, or master of ceremonies, explained the significance of the season, and then everyone knelt in front of the lady and made offerings and libations to her. One of the women would emerge from the darkness, with her lips stained with blackberry juice to represent blood. Other women processed carrying a bloodier spear, a bowl of blackberries, and a goblet of blackberry juice, representing the blood of the slain god. So blackberries. I don't know if I'd like blackberry juice. So a bramble was collected by each person and offered up. Now in return, they were given a blackberry cake and plums. Ooh, okay, that might be good. The man representing the god was then led into the clearing by a crimson cord around his neck and with his face covered in blackberry juice. Sounds very messy. I just don't get it in my hair, please, because it'll stain. I don't want blackberry hair. That would be awful. Now, as the representative of Arthur, the Lord of the Dead, he purified the women while the lady or maid administered to the men. So the rite ended with the harvest supper, and the traditional back-to-back witches dance performed in a Widdershins direction counterclockwise. Now, and at the autumnal equinox, September 22nd to 23rd, those attending the rite were led by the maid by a labyrinth or spiral route through the wood to stand under the oak tree. That would be amazing to do. That really would. So the representative of the god, or King Arthur, was not present because he was supposed to be in the underworld. So the women would emerge from the darkness of the wood and presented a bowl of hazelnuts to each of the men. A feast of a quiet, reflective nature would then be held to conclude the proceedings. So it's all about reflection, and yeah, it's just that's nice, and that's in traditional craft too. Now, at Hallows, or Halloween, October 31st, the primary symbolism of the rite was one of death and of contact between the world of the living and the land of the shades. The participants gathered back at the tree and circled it 9 times diesel. The women then led the men blindfolded in procession to the stream that symbolically represented the river Styx in dividing the land of the living from the land of the dead. Okay, totally answered my question about the river Styx. Totally answered it. So they were challenged at dagger point and asked to pay a coin as a fee to the ferryman, Chiron, or face death. This was placed in a bowl, and each man was purified with fire and water before being allowed to cross the stream to the other side. I really, really like this river Styx. I don't know why. Then finally, a woman representing the old hag goddess gave every man an apple to eat. The blindfolds were removed, and the whole party then adjoined to the nearby dancing ground that symbolized the land of the dead. In some versions of the Hallows ritual, 2 circles were used, as they had been in the Old Coven, to represent the world of the living and the dead. Dice were thrown to allow entry into the second circle. So the MC, Master of Ceremonies, made an address about the festival's meaning and announced that it was the season of the games of death. So libations were made to a human skull with a candle on its top. It was placed on the altar made from a fallen oak. So the skull was to represent the old god as it is in the old craft traditions. Yes, I like this part. So there was also a cup, a bell, a ritual knife, and a plate of apples and cake. What kind of cake? The altar was then circled 9 times Widdershins, and this was followed by a meditation on the nature of death. Now, while this was going on, the Master of Ceremonies walked slowly around the circle, holding the skull, and made several marks, symbols, or sigils on the ground. The dark goddess Hecate was then invoked as the queen of the deadlands and the cutter of life's thread, to release shades as they could speak to the living. A circle was cut around the men on the ground, and then spirit roads were opened. So the Master of the Ceremonies gathering turned outwards from the circle, what did I write there? Facing the trees, and invited the dead to join them. The women then led dance, forming a double spiral and a maze pattern. The skull was tapped, the bell rang, and the assembly whistled to call up the ghosts. After whistling up the wind, the group partook of food drink after first making an offering of it to the almighty dead. Halloween games of divination were played. Now at the end, the Master of the Ceremonies then went around the circle, presenting the skull to each celebrant in turn and telling them to remember their ancestors, which I think is amazing. That's really good. After a closing dance, the shades were thanked for their attendance, and the rite and then dismissed. So, yeah, do I want to go into this more? So the doors to the spiritual world were then ritualistically closed. So, all right, that's the last of the how they celebrated the seasonal festivals within the Regency. So I'm going to leave off with that. I really like this. It gets even better. We get into all these, we get into these different doctors, we get into different, all these different kinds of people from all around the world that, want to, analyze and see just how, traditional craft is practiced and compare it to, everything. So, we actually get a full understanding of what traditional craft is about. Okay, another account. So we will do this one, we'll go on to this one tomorrow. So much better with a piece of paper. So much better. Alright. So what do you guys think? Is this different from your guys' craft? Because it should be. It should be quite different. I mean, not really, but I mean, there are definitely differences within what we're talking about. So, I hope you guys have a great day. I love you all very, 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 very much. Please be safe. And yeah, another good day with Chico. So I kind of dropped my phone in the fire, but I can still kind of use it. The screen is just kind of melted and it's funky. So I was able to post one picture of him. So now I have to save them and then post them to YouTube. And yeah, so yeah, it's just a mess. But that's being fixed. So I love you all very much. Happy Witchy Wednesday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So all my love, all the way from Venus, all the way back down. And I love you all very much, and please be safe, you guys, please. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.